Hey everybody, Mr. Miller here, and we're going to talk today about rationalizing binomial denominators. So this is a little different than the monomials that we saw before, because underneath the radical we have a binomial, in this case 8z plus 5. So I'm going to write this down on a sheet of paper. I really suggest you do the same for all of your problems. Work through them on a sheet of paper and put your answers back in. So we have 5 divided by the square root of 8z plus 5. Now the first thing that we know that we need to do is we need to rationalize this square root, because that's the name of the lesson. So rationalizing means that we need to basically get rid of the square root. And how can we do that? Well, if you're thinking we can square the square root, I agree. So in effect, to square the square root, you have to multiply it by itself. 8z plus 5. But because we're not allowed to change the value of this function, we can only multiply by 1. And the only way we can multiply by 1 is if our numerator and the denominator of the thing we're multiplying by is the same. So in effect, what you'll see is we're taking this denominator and we're making a new fraction with this as both the numerator and the denominator. And we're going to multiply them. 5 times the square root of 8z plus 5. We can't simplify this because this is a square root. This is a whole number. We can't multiply it through. We could actually turn this into a 25 and multiply it through, and then put it inside the radical, but that wouldn't help us any. It wouldn't make it any more simple. And then the square root of 8z plus 5 times the square root of 8z plus 5 actually equals 8z plus 5. So the last thing we can do is look for a number to factor out. For it to be able to factor out, it has to be in all 3 of these places. And there's nothing that factors out of all 3 places. We have a 5 here and a 5 here, but we can't factor a 5 out of 8. And then we could say, well, let's look under the radical. We have an 8z and a 5. There's no way of pulling anything out that would be a square, a perfect square. So we could pull the 4 out of the 8z so that we could reduce that, but we can't pull the 4 out of 5, so it's not going to work. So this is our answer. 5 times the square root of 8z plus 5 over the quantity 8z plus 5. Now you may feel like this doesn't make it much simpler, and in a lot of regards I agree with you, but this does allow us to do a lot of mathematical things with it that we couldn't have done previously. So it's going to be useful in later lessons. Once again, this is one of those lessons that in and of itself doesn't answer any questions, but it is a stepping stone to some of those things that are more useful. So we have 5 divided by 8z plus 5, and then that 5 is multiplied by the square root of 8z plus 5. Again, when you type it in, don't forget to click how did I do, and you'll see that your answer is correct. Once again, steps are below. Good luck on your problems.